today for its regularly scheduled meeting of April 17th, 2025. I'm Joey Hargis, the Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'll be presenting the cases for review in today's public hearing. The board would ask if you'd put your cell phone on silent so it doesn't go off in the meeting. We'd appreciate it. The procedure will be to go through the cases as listed on the agenda here. And I'll present on the wall here above the chairman's head the photographs for today's cases and go through what the variances or the requests are. And then after I'm done, the applicant will come first to this table where the 4 microphones are, and then present their testimony and reasons for hardship if it's a variance, or how they meet the conditions if it's a special exception. And then after the applicant speaks, anybody who's opposed to a case will come up next. And then after the opposition speaks, the applicant will get a chance for rebuttal. But the applicant is the only one that gets a rebuttal. In cases without opposition, you'll have 5 minutes to present your case. Just to the right of where you're sitting, you see where Ms. Davis is located. There's a clock on the mantle or on the countertop there. I'll keep track of the time. It will stop for any questions that the board asks of you and your answers to those questions. But once you're done answering the question, you're kind of back into testimony. I'll start it back up. And then if there is cases with opposition, both the applicant and the opposition have 10 minutes to speak. And that's 10 minutes for the entirety of the group if there's multiple speakers. So be sure to divide your time accordingly. Applicants will want to save some of their 10 minutes for rebuttal. And then, let's see, council member, I notice council members present. Council member, you're welcome to address the board either before the public hearing starts, or you can wait till the case if you want to wait till the case. Currently, your time is not charged, but may be in the future. So we'll keep you up to date on that, depending on how other things go at the end of today's agenda. But the board does have a consent agenda. So prior to the meeting, the chairman reviews the cases for prior to the public hearing, and if in the chairman's opinion that the case meets the requirements of the variance or special exception that they've requested, and they feel that testimony will not alter the material facts, they recommend cases to the consent agenda. So when I call these cases, if you're here in opposition to a case, raise your hand and I'll take it off consent and we'll put it right back in the order in which it's printed on today's agenda. Currently, we have one item recommended for consent, and it's case 2025-32 DY Construction. Deron Jenkins, the owner of the property at 1700 15th Avenue South, requesting a variance from the driveway requirements in R6. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 32 on 15th Avenue South? Mr. Chairman, the record reflects there is no one here in opposition. So that case is your consent agenda.
Yes, move for approval for consent item.
Okay. Mr. Jenkins, your case has been approved. You are free to hang out with us if you'd like to. I don't expect you'll take me up on the offer that no one ever takes me up on, and then we will, I do have a couple preliminary announcements before we get started. One item that was listed previously on the agenda on page 3, case 2025-33, Mr. Van Hooser's case at 904 Douglas Avenue. That case has been postponed until May the 1st. So if you're here for a case on Douglas Avenue, that case is postponed and will be heard on May the 1st in this room at 1 o'clock. So case 33 will not be heard today. It'll be heard next time, which is May the 1st. And that completes preliminary announcements and consent agenda item. And we will start with the first case on page 1, case 2025-15. Mr. Asin Chandri is the appellant, U.S. Healthcare Associates, owner of the property at 372 Glen Rose Avenue, requesting a street setback variance and a height variance in R6. The appellant has constructed a wood fence. Is the applicant present today? Okay, sir, come forward. Let me show the board the photographs first, and then I'll turn it over to you. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 15 on Glen Rose? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chaudhry, when I turn it over to you, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, you'll have 5 minutes to present your case. But let me go through my portion first, and I will get that PowerPoint loaded. Okay, the first case before us, as I said, is case 2025-15 at 372 Glen Rose Avenue. The subject property is the parcel in which you see here, located in green on your screen right here. My cursor's moving. And the issue that the Codes Department has in this case is, Mr. Chaudhry, just a reminder for board that the council currently does not require a permit to build privacy fences or any type of fence in Davidson County. But when you do build a fence, the zoning code does require some setback requirements depending on the type of fence, and I'll cover those here in just a moment. Actually, I cover it right now. The zoning code requires that solid fences, such as the one Mr. Chaudhry's built, or fences that are not considered open, and I'll cover that in just a second, have to be at least 10 feet off the city right-of-way. So in this instance, it appears to be the right-of-way starts at the back of the public sidewalk here. So this fence would have to be 10 feet back in order to be 6 feet tall. And that's the height of this wall is 6 feet. The zoning code does allow for solid fences in that 10 feet, but it's limited to 2.5 feet in height, which would be 30 inches. For open fences such as chain link or picket, or in a fence like this, if he were to remove every other board, that would be considered an open fence. This fence would be fine where it's located. But to be a solid fence, or even fences you've seen called shadow box fences, where the panes are sort of staggered back behind, that's still also considered an opaque fence for us, and has to be 10 feet back to be 6 feet tall. And he's located based on, I think his survey, at 2 foot 3 inches. So this is a view looking west toward Knowlesville Pike, and then a view of the remainder of the fence that encompasses his. This portion here, as you notice where my cursor is, we're beyond 10 feet from the city right-of-way. The city right-of-way here he's got a much larger front yard. So this portion of the fence is compliant. It's only the portions within 10 feet from the back of this sidewalk that would be in violation. I think it is the majority of this length that I'm showing you here. And then the next photograph, again, you see is the retaining wall that's there, and a railing, and then his fence is behind that railing. Okay, those are the photographs we have. And Mr. Chaudhry, I'll turn it over to you. You'll have 5 minutes to present your testimony. First, for him and other applicants, when you come forward, if you'll give us your name and physical street address, and then proceed with your testimony. It'll be the button, sir, at the base of the microphone on the far right. And push that one time. There you go.
Well, thank you so much. I would like to thank the chair, the board members, and the staff to give me the opportunity to present my case. We acquired this house in a very bad shape. There was a lot of trash, and it was not the neighbors were not happy about it, so I acquired it. I tried to make it look nice. And I have a tenant in there right now, but we had a couple of incidents where people broke into the house, and I had filed the case to the police, and they said they really can't do anything considering the location where it is. You will have to do something to deter people. Fence was one of the suggestions, and when I got the tenant in, then he saw the people were just walking through his yard, the front and the back and the side, and he always felt unsafe that somebody will find an opportunity to do that again. So that's how we then went ahead and put the fence up. And the space between the house and where the fence is, or the sidewalk is, that's not even 10 feet itself, it's about 6.5 feet away from the fence, so we couldn't really comply that. I did not even know that. I thought the person that he had hired would understand the codes and stuff. The other thing is it's put in inside the railing that was already existing for many, many years, so we didn't even think of that it will be out of the range in that area. And also, where we could put it 10 feet away, we didn't really care to put right at the street. For example, on Whitney Street or at the corner. But this is the area where we needed some, the only space between the fence and the house is the walkway where you can walk at the back and go to the house. There's not much space there. The other thing is the lot is higher than the sidewalk. I don't know if putting it closer to the house would really give anybody more space there because it's already about 3 foot, I think, higher. We also saw some other houses in on the same street on Glen Rose where the fences are put right at close to the sidewalk. If we go to this side, the rail track side, there are 2-3 houses with that. As far as the height goes, I think my understanding was that each panel was like a standard height, 6 feet height. So it might look higher just because it's the uneven land right there. We had to put solid and high enough that people passing by who have, mischievous mind, they won't know if there's anybody there to protect the house or not, because anytime they saw the opportunity, they broke inside the house and took whatever they could. Or somebody, one time when we were in the process of fixing that up, somebody just spent a night there. So it's really for all those reasons that we had to really do that. And when I asked the police, they couldn't guarantee anything, and they said they couldn't really help me with any of that stuff. So I think that's my case. I thought that I have contributed to the neighborhood to make it a safer house, and that was not something that people could spend just their nights in the yard or inside the house.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
No.
No? No questions? Okay. All right, we'll close the public hearing and discuss. Mr. Hargis, can you remind us, where the wooden fence is located now, if it weren't a solid fence, there could be something there 6 feet high? Correct. Okay.
If it were an open fence or not opaque, it would be compliant where it sits currently.
Okay.
And just to confirm, there was no opposition to this case, that's correct?
Yes, nobody present.
And another question for Mr. Hargis. Is this deemed a corner lot?
It is, sir.
Okay.
And so the visibility triangle on the
Is right at that 31.42 right there?
yes, sir. In this corner, in the southwest corner.
So solid fence 10 feet back.
Yes, sir. He's actually, as you see at this intersection, he's clearly outside that visibility triangle. Just the topography. I think there's a drainage ditch in this tree. His tenant built it pretty far back off of.
How's the council coming with that fence building permit?
Well, you have one in the office, so, and feel free to ask the council member not to put her on the spot, but
Shot across the bow.
now she has 39 colleagues, so it's not completely up to the council member present.
May I add that the other fences that
I'm sorry, we've closed the public hearing.
sorry.
Well, it seems to me like, this house, there isn't 10 feet to push it back if you wanted to, I don't think you can have a solid fence here. The question is that a hardship that allows this to be built? And I guess what I'm struggling with is, I think it's a hardship, but you can still build a fence that's not solid and would be 6 feet tall. I know the applicant is wanting something solid for security reasons, but it seems like you could get some protection with a 6-foot fence, at least you'd be able to protect it from people being able to access the property.
Right. I agree from at least a hardship perspective, but I mean, all the rules surrounding a fence, especially a corner lot, is for visibility of safety of cars pulling out. So when you're at a corner, you could see another car coming. So with the fence being this high, this solid, this close to the street, it's just a huge safety hazard for a car that's coming down the street on the right side of this photo, coming out, or vice versa. I mean, that's the reason you can't have an opaque fence, is from a visibility standpoint. That's correct, Mr. Hargis?
Yes, sir, there is. And what enforces that is that visibility triangle at this intersection on the left-hand side of the photograph. He is not in violation of that at all. He's actually outside the triangle. One of the things when I went out to visit was to see if he needed a variance from that. But he complies with that visibility triangle here. So he's outside of it. It's just the code says within 10 feet of the right-of-way, solid fences can't be taller.
It's just the front, Mr. Ransom, I think that we're.
Just the front,
Yeah,
it's not
just
that
the
corner.
front.
It's this portion that you see in this photograph, this portion here is the part that's in violation.
What about on the?
As we get down here, it actually becomes compliant. This portion right here is compliant with the code.
Because it's 30, looks like it's kind of.
It's over 6 feet, but it's more than 10 feet back from the right-of-way. So he's
Okay.
out. He's outside that visibility triangle, which would be right in here.
Well, the one, maybe we're just making sure I'm looking at the right document, so. The one.
So this view is from the alley toward the looking west. So on this photograph, that would be the very first photograph's looking back this
Right.
way. And there's not a visibility triangle required at this intersection, but only at public streets.
And this is the triangle you're talking about, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes,
here,
sir.
this one.
And that triangle, he conforms with, so he's
Okay.
not violating that. And that triangle is at this intersection right here where my cursor is moving. He's fine because the fence is more than 10 feet back. And so
Right.
because it's more than 10 feet back off of this north-south street, he's outside the triangle.
Okay.
His issue is basically from house side to alley, kind of right through there.
Right. I mean, said another way, if he, the fence should be 10 feet setback, right? So if you're pulling out from this intersection, you can stick your nose of your car out and you can see, right? Without having to make him move the whole fence, could you do some type of a variance for a visibility triangle in the rear?
There's not by code a triangle at this intersection because this is an alley.
It's not a requirement since it's an alley?
No, sir, it's not.
Okay.
But your reasoning
Well,
stands that if this were an open fence, it's easier to see through.
Right. I
Looking
mean, if it
west.
was installed correctly, it'd be 10 feet further back, which is why you don't need the visibility triangle, right?
Or that, or if this were, if this were more than 50% open, and you
Right.
could see through it, there'd be no issue. I didn't want to muddy the water with a visibility triangle argument because that's on the other end, and he complies.
I understand, right? So what I'm trying to, I certainly understand the hardship of it and how it's so close to the street. I'm just worried coming even from the alley, looking that direction. I mean, the cars are coming from the left, so it's less of an important item, but. Yeah, I mean, doing a variance for a small corner to set that back, so that's also at a little bit of an angle, so someone pulling out can have a better visibility and still keeping the fence. But maybe I'm getting too in the weeds of it.
I think looking at the location of the house, if we require the violation portion of the fence, and if we enforce 10 feet setback, that will be, fence will be sitting inside of the house. So I think there's a clearly hardship because of the location of the house. So the question is the height. So all the surrounding area, because the other corner is meeting the requirement, 10-foot setback. And then alley corner, we don't require setback. So should we require only that portion lower 2.5 or 3 feet, or make it visible? I think that's the question.
They require a 10-foot setback on the alley. They just don't require a visibility corner on the alley. Correct?
No.
No, that's not how I
Not
understand
that.
it either. I think the only part of the fence that we're looking at
The
is the
front.
front portion.
Yeah,
It's only the
portion.
front portion.
We're not looking at the whole fence, we're just looking at the front
The
portion.
sides are okay.
And while I typically agree with the wisdom of our chair, I see a hardship, and it just seems sort of impractical to me I mean, like, typically fences are consistent. I know that sometimes people change it up a little bit, but in this particular case, given the safety concerns he's raised, and then the fact that to come in complete compliance, granted, he could open it up, but then it wouldn't be consistent with the rest of the fence. I'm inclined to find an exception here just based off of the history he presented with the safety concerns and the trespassers, and then the fact that most of the fence is in compliance except for that front portion. So it's very narrow to me. I definitely understand the chairman's position, and it was very close for me in my mind, but when I see it and I realize, like, oh, most of this is okay, it's just that front portion, I'm inclined to give an exception. But, I mean, I'm open to listen to, I totally could be wrong, so I'm willing to change my position. It's just my initial thought.
I believe there are other materials to deter crime or trespassers to where it doesn't have to be as solid along the that plane of the fence. So I'm not necessarily seeing the hardship myself. There are other options.
Yeah, I think there's a hardship here. I think we all agree on that. I mean, this is the question is, you put it very well, is do we require it to be lowered
Or use a different material.
Yeah, or use a different material but I don't, we have kind of, in my recollection, we've had a few of these cases in the past where the hardship was essentially that it was a security issue, and we've always said, we can't be the security board. We've got to, you got to look somewhere else for that. I think it's a closed case, but I think that you could make it a not solid fence and still have, in fact, you could probably just remove every other board here, and you'd have a fence. You would, some people would be able to see in it better, but I don't think we're eliminating all the options for fencing the property, so, but I mean, I'm empathetic to the applicant because that's not much of a front setback to work with at all, and
I just want to remind you that when talking about the variance, it's really important to include some findings of fact regarding the physical characteristics of the property and how it's distinct from other neighboring properties.
I mean, I'm empathetic to the applicant as well, and I certainly understand this house is very close to the street, so it gives them very little, if any, wiggle room. Like you said, that you could have a solid fence, but it would probably abut the left and right side of the house to meet the setback requirements from the lot line. But there are means and methods to install a fence where this is installed and still meet code. So, and we have kind of, like you said in the past, Mr. Pepper, about some other people that have expressed similar concerns, and, we can't really, amend on that. We have to stick with what's permitted within zoning. So, I don't know, this was a tough one. The other one I can think of, the house was further set back, so there was a lot more real estate in the front. So.
I am leaning towards our member Davis because we are talking about only the front, one section of the fence. And if we try to ask the applicant to lower that portion or change that portion, I think it's kind of impractical in a way. So I think try to enforce the law, how it's written is impractical in this case. So I'm inclined to, because of the unique location and because of the topography of the sidewalk and because of the enforcement of 10 feet setback is impossible because of the location. So I'm inclined to accept the hardship as is because of the location of the house and the topography. That's how I kind of leaning. Other member may still feel kind of different way.
Mr. Hargis, I think this is, just to clarify, you can install a chain link fence or a metal aluminum post fence, something similar, in the exact same location, 6 feet high, and that would meet the zoning requirements?
Yes, you could, flip into this first photograph, this one here, that fence could even be built on to the city right away. So 6 feet tall. Any type of open fence could come the additional 2'3", and as long as it's not opaque.
Okay, does anybody have a motion? No. Okay, I'll make one. I empathize with the applicant, but I think that the applicant can comply with the code and have another type of fence there that may not provide quite as much security as a solid fence, but would provide some security. And so I will move that we deny the application. There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. So that motion does not pass.
Okay,
Is
Mr.
that
Chairman.
3-2?
What's that,
Is that
3-2?
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
3-2.
Mr. Chairman, under your rules, this case will remain on our agenda for the next 30 days. We will have 2 meetings in the next 30 days, May 1st and 15th. Any of you 5 can change your votes should you wish to. The 2 members who are not present, I will provide them a link to this video so they can become eligible. Should they wish to participate, they can do so at the next meeting. If in the event this motion, let's see, yeah, so for the next two meetings, and then after at May the 15th, if this motion still remains tied, the case will be deemed denied by operation of law.
Mr. Chandra, did you understand that? You get there are 2 members that aren't here that can vote.
Okay, yes, sir.
Vote too, so it could still pass. You have other options, so.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, everybody,
Thank
our
you,
next
everybody.
case is... Next case is 2025-28, is Mr. John Earhart, the appellant. Are there any parties here in opposition to case 28? Okay, we do have one gentleman present. So each side will have 10 minutes to present. Mr. Earhart, if you would like to come forward, I'm going to go through our, as you saw like last time, I'll go through our presentation and reset the clock here for 10 minutes. Give me just a second. I will go through my portion. Okay. The subject property is located on the west margin of South New Hope Road. The issue here, twofold. This proposed garage, Mr. Earhart constructed without permit, but the variance request here stems on the fact that, and I'll zoom in just a little bit, the existing RV shed that's listed here is already utilizing the setback reduction that's allowed for an outbuilding. So one of the outbuildings on the property, when you build multiple structures, is allowed to take a reduction in setback from the required 20-foot setback down to as close as 3, depending on size. So this RV shed falls just under that size to take that exemption. This structure that's been constructed requires a 20-foot setback, then being the second structure along the rear line. And as you see, the structure here is 30 by 50. That's 1,500 square feet. there's not an issue, I know you guys may see from time to time, there's not an issue with the number of structures or sizes thereof. He is over 40,000 square feet, so there's not a limitation to the number of outbuildings, but, so this is a view.
There's no issue with the proposed carport?
No, sir, it's
Okay,
fine.
all right.
That part is fine. And we'll go through the slides here. This first view is looking from South New Hope. I almost said Earhart. The gentleman's last name is the same name as another road out in that area. And then a view from the sort of the western, southern part of that. The structure in question, and we'll have to get permits for this structure if it hasn't been done, but that's the building that was constructed without permit. Give you some idea of, this is an aerial dated in March of 24. You see that the pad was there, but the structure was not. And then sometime between March of 24 and March of this year, that structure was erected. You see it there. So again, just recapping, and I'll keep this slide. This structure is fine where it's located. The zoning code allows one of the structures in a rear setback to take a reduction in setback, but the second structure has to comply with the full setbacks, and that's this structure here. I think I'll pull it back to the site plan. There we go. I'll leave that there. Sir, you'll have 10 minutes if you would. You identify yourself and address and make your presentation, and then of your 10 minutes, you may want to save some of it for after the other gentleman in opposition speaks. You'll have a chance to come back and rebut anything he says.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm John Earhart, 5914 South New Hope Road. The issue I had is I had as you can see, a garage built and through a contractor, and they stated, I assume they handled any permitting process. They stated no permit was required for them. Thankfully, it was built to code except for the rear setback. And that's what I'm requesting here is a variance on that because it's on the neighbor side here to the back side of the property where the variance is requested. It's 10 foot on that side, but of course in 10 feet on the sides, but 20 feet on the rear. And I'm just requesting that it, be the 10 feet there. And if the other shed, I wasn't even aware that the other shed could be set within that setback. If possible, I can move that one out. As far as moving the newest one there, that would be an extreme financial hardship to relocate that one. But yeah, that's, and the neighbor to where the property sits, that's Mr. Bogle. He's fine with it. He's got no complaints as far as where either of the buildings are. But that's about all I have. And then, of course, I just wanted to state Mr. David Teague with the Codes Department. He's been great throughout this whole process. We've been dealing with this for a while, so I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Earhart?
I have just a couple questions, Mr. Earhart. You said the contractor said he would get all the permits, or you assumed he would get all the permits?
Yes, sir. I assumed, and they actually even stated that they didn't require a permit. They told me they build them all the time in Tennessee without a permit. So it was news to me when Mr. T contacted me.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
Any more questions?
Just one.
Okay, I believe there's some opposition here. You've got time in rebuttal too, so you've got a lot of time.
They are. Members, council member is also here on this case, and she'd like to speak before we close the public hearing, but after both parties.
Okay. All right, so.
Mr. Earhart, if you'll step back, we'll let the other gentleman come through, and if you would please, Mr. Earhart, come over here. I'm going to get that information for that contractor. I'm going to send them a nice letter to remind them that in Davidson County, they do need a permit.
Good morning, Board. I'm Roger Farmer. I live at 5701 St. Charles Court. I'm actually just to the right of that photo. I'm on the right corner of the lot. I've been living there for over 40 years. I actually bought my lot from Mr. Earhart's grandparents. And so kind of know a lot of history about this property. The question that I'm having, I had photos, but you guys already have them. The setbacks are setbacks based on zoning, whether it's 10 foot on one side, 10 for the other. And a lot of these have been built basically without any kind of permits. The pad that was poured for the proposed garage was poured by Mr. Earhart's, one of their family members. So if you're pouring a pad, you should know that there should be setbacks based on any project. And as part of a resident, that's part of your responsibility to check permits and check with coding and know what's going on, not assume that somebody's going to do it for you. So by adjusting one thing or the other, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4. There used to be a 5th building there, and it's been torn down due to a storm damage. But kind of speaking for some of the residents, the gentleman right across the street at 5917 South New Hope Road, he built an addition on his house. He had to have a building permit before he could start. So some of the residents are a little concerned that Mr. Earhart can build kind of whatever he wants to build on his property without building permits and with not staying within our zoning guidelines. So if we do a setback variance here, that's not going to open or close any doors that an additional large proposed garage could be built there. And, you know, that's kind of, I like to see that we stay within our laws and within the zoning that's applied for every resident in Metro. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Let me see, did anybody have any questions? Thank you, no questions. Is there anybody else in opposition? And our council person wanted to speak after the applicant does his.
You can after his rebuttal, or, okay.
Not to sound petty, but Mr. Farmer doesn't speak for any of the other neighbors. There's 175 letters sent out. He's the only one that complained. And he's the one that contacted codes about it. I just say that, you know, I get along great with all my neighbors. Nobody has an issue except for a constant nuisance. That's all I have to say about that.
Any more questions before we close?
Do you have any other letters from any of your neighbors for support?
No, sir. I do have, I mean, I text messages with neighbors surrounding me, but no one thought the need to show up for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, sir, we've closed except for the council person, that nobody else can speak, so.
Before we close the public hearing, let's let the council member speak.
Thank you, Board. I haven't been in front of you before. I appreciate your service to Nashville. So I don't have a lot to add, particular to this case. I did hear from Mr. Farmer in opposition, and I spoke with one neighbor who was in favor. And the reason why the neighbor was in favor is because they felt like the buildings assisted with some of the like cars and things that were on the property, kind of keeping them, you know, kind of in kind of the covered structures. But the person did not have a perspective kind of on the setback question. And because I didn't know what the outcome was going to look like here, I wanted to make sure I attended just to learn and hear kind of your discussion particular to this case. Because I do have other residents that come forward with kind of a similar conversation like Mr. Earhart was describing about contractors not necessarily being up to Davidson County laws and regulations and those kinds of things. So that's the reason why I'm here, to be neutral, because one in opposition, you know, one in favor. And that's it. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
If you could just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Erin Evans. I'm the council person for District 12 in Hermitage. And also I'll be bringing the fence legislation back. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing and discuss.
So I'm super sympathetic to the homeowner. People pay people a considerable sum of money for their expertise to build things they assume that they're going to follow the laws. I will say, our chairman said something earlier that I normally say, and I will say for these types of garages, we've had several recently where people have built them in order to contain their cars. I remember the man in Rosebank who had a lot, and we unfortunately, sadly, we voted that, not sadly, but we, complied with the law and said that he had to take it up even though he had had it for a while. So for this one, I don't see a hardship, but I am sympathetic to the homeowner. He seems like a really nice person, and I feel bad that the contractor did that, but I don't see a hardship at this point, but I'm listening. But at this point, just based off of what I've seen, I'm inclined to say no, or vote no.
Yeah, I agree, Member Davis. I'm not seeing any hardship on this one.
I agree. I mean, I hope the applicant has some redress against the contractor, because that's what you pay him to do, is to go pull a permit. I can't imagine how a contractor would not know that you needed to pull a permit on this, but I don't see any hardship either, so I don't think there's even a way to stretch to find one for the applicant. So I'll make a motion, we deny the application. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that application is denied. Next case.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Earhart, I'll get with you after this. We can talk about next steps. The next case for us is in front of you is case 2025-31. This is located at 2801 Delaware Avenue. Mr. Jody Rops, the appellant, appears he's represented by counsel, Mr. John Michael. Property located at 2801 Delaware Avenue, requesting a variance from the street setback requirements in R6A. The appellant's requesting to build a two-family residence referred to the board under section 1712.030. All right, the subject property. What have I done? Let me try this again.
Joey, was there a letter from Mr. Michael with regard to this case? Because I didn't see it in the packet, so I just wanted to clarify.
Let me see.
I believe that'll be a letter dated March 25, if that helps, Mr. Hargis.
Sorry, I'm struggling without a mouse over here.
And Mr. Hargis, if it helps to go through your email, that'll be an email on March 31 sent to the BZA.
Okay.
Ms. Patrick, yourself, with the support letter attached.
Yes, I do. I'll pull it. Let me pull it up on the screen for you. Okay. Mr. Michael, it's here if you need it. Let me go through just quickly the case record here. Okay, the subject property is located at the intersection of Delaware Avenue and 28th Avenue North in North Nashville. Site plan here oriented north is at the top. The nature of the request before you is the setback along 28th Avenue. The zoning code allows corner lots such as this one to reduce their side yard setbacks, so side street setbacks. So when units are facing Delaware, this lot, because it was created prior to January 1st, 1998, it's allowed to reduce its setback along 28th Avenue. However, 28th Avenue is deemed an arterial boulevard in the zoning code, so that minimum setback is 40 feet and is allowed to be reduced down to 20 feet. And Mr. Michael's client is requesting a 10-foot setback. variance from that. So this is a view facing north. This is the property directly across the street, 2 homes there, and then a view looking west along some new constructions that are there. And then this is the subject site. Upon my visit April 9th, the structure was being raised that was previously occupied here. And then a view, actually I've got one more photograph. Let me pull that up for you. Sorry, let me add that just a second. I accidentally cropped it while I was activating this case. There's the fourth side. So this is looking west at the intersection of 28th and Delaware. That's the case record as we have it. Are there any parties present in opposition to this case? Seeing no hands, Mr. Michael, you'll have 5 minutes to present your case to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Hargis, and thank you, members of the board, for hearing this case. My name is John Michael. I'm an attorney at the Thompson Burton Law Firm here in Nashville, 1801 West End Avenue in marvelous Midtown. Proud today to have the opportunity to represent my friend Jody Roberts with this appeal, requesting a variance from strict application of the side street setback for the development at 2801 Delaware. Mr. Hargis has shown you the field photos that I think give a nice indication of a mix of development around this immediate lot. Here, just by way of overview, the hardship has been created by the unique interplay between the Metro Zoning Code and its side street setback requirements and the MCSP, or Major and Collector Street Plan, which was governed by the Planning Department at this location. Because 28th is an arterial street, and that is one of the busiest or boldest categories under which a street can be identified. That does carry the 40-foot setback here, reduced, as Mr. Hargis stated, under the zoning code. I'll point here with the graphic that was included in our support letter dated March 25. To the immediate north of our project, you see a small, looks like an HPR development that is right up to the street. And that's because the underlying base zoning for that was RM, or multifamily zoning, with R and RS construction, as we're now R-zoned lot. We would carry this normal setback. However, in this instance, with the property surrounding us, and this is kind of a secondary point that's worthy of consideration, within 250 feet of our lot, we have R6A zoning, RM20, RS5, SP specifically designated for multifamily, OL, which is office limited, IR, which is industrial restricted, and MUI, mixed use intensive. Again, all within 250 feet of this. Similarly, the land uses that follow and track with those zoning districts include a health clinic, a religious institution, a parking garage, apartments, single family and duplex housing, a warehouse, condominiums, short-term rental uses, and even an office building. In these regards, it's just a really intense mix of uses and zoning districts, such that there is no strict set of setbacks that create any sort of defined character for the area. Instead, the defined character is a mix. Therefore, we believe that the exceptional circumstances contemplated under 13.7.207, the Tennessee Code annotated, for these exceptional circumstances with regard to the zoning and the MCSP strictures rise to the level of a hardship that merits this mild relief on the street side setback. I've just passed out, I think they made it around, a diagram that is basically the survey or site plan that was prepared from Clint Elliott for this project. Mine has color, yours is black and white, sorry for any confusion. But I'll note what is shaded on that diagram is the area that would be setback under strict application of a 40-foot setback on the side street, the northerly front setback 5 feet to the west on the side, and then the 20 to the rear. That leaves a very, very, very tiny building envelope for a property that is zoned for two-family zoning. And I think that's noteworthy as well, because the council.
Can I stop you there before I lose?
Yes,
you?
sir. Yes, sir.
I thought you were seeking a variance from 20 feet to 10 feet.
That's correct. The
So
original
how
40
is
would
it-
have applied, but it is 20 that we're seeking the relief from here.
Right. Okay, so, that's why I'm not following. Where are you coming up with 40?
40 was under the major and collector street plan, but the zoning code allows that 40 to be reduced. So originally, when we prepared these diagrams, we had it to the 40, but then had the 20 that was allowed through the Metro zoning code, but we're seeking 10 so that we can fit 2 quality houses onto the R-zoned lot for two-family construction. And the zoning matters here. The council member, Mr. Taylor, was supportive of a two-family development here in order to get some of those micro increases in density throughout Nashville and good central parts of the city like this and others. Therefore sought to rezone the property from RS to R to get the second house on that property. He has also communicated with my client just this week his reaffirmed support for this variance so that 2 quality residences can be built on this lot. Sometimes we are asked, well, why didn't you just pursue an SP to rezone it and get your setbacks? The SP would have just been about the setback at that point. And of course, nobody wants to pursue the more complicated SP process. Planning often tries to find ways to avoid SPs if they are just small, single matters like those, rather than larger questions of use. To that end, the property was rezoned, signed into law in February of 25, and we've sought this variance in order to get the second unit onto the building. We have no known opposition. We're proud to have the council member's support. I represent a proven developer and builder with a track record of building quality houses throughout Metro Davidson County. And with all of the consideration of the public policy goals associated with those broader street side setbacks, this unique application of the MCSP and the zoning code really doesn't further the goals that were contemplated or public policy ideals that were contemplated with that broader setback. Instead, it just slashes the building envelope for the second unit on this property. For those reasons and those identified at greater length in the support letter that we submitted in March, we respectfully ask for the board to support and vote for the variance that we seek here today. Naturally, I want to invite any questions the board members may have.
Any questions? Mr. Ransom, you got your light on. Any questions?
Yeah, this may be, you may not know the answer to this, but there's a house directly across the street at 2800 28th Avenue. I don't know if Mr. Hargis or you might have the setback of that particular property. Joey, you showed it on, showed a picture of it when you were kind of going through your information. That one, yes.
That one. Let me pull that up here.
Would you be able to?
I think that's a different zone district, but hang with me 1 second. Yeah, I think it's
So
RM.
one of the 6 different zoning areas
Yeah, I think it's an RM zone. Dash A, which puts its setback anywhere between 0 and 10 feet.
looks like 0 to me. Yeah, I guess I could use the new parcel view. It's down to the right.
Yeah, that's RM 20A, so its setback is 0 to 10. They've got a choice where to set that.
Yeah, if you scroll down, Joey. Yeah, maybe, no, that's right. That was the right one. Yeah,
Okay.
I was looking at a different angle. I was looking at the side of it. That was the multifamily one, I think, right?
Yep. That's the one in this photograph here,
Yes, okay.
there.
All right, my perspective is a lot. Thank you.
Any, oh, I'm sorry, you had a question for
No,
me?
that was it.
Okay. Any further questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael. Well, there is is there opposition? I don't think there is there? Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and discuss.
I think in this case, looking at the unique development pattern of that area, seems like enforcing 20 feet setback will not meet the overall design guideline or development plan, because across the street is SP, pretty much no setback. And then the other side of the corner, it is Delaware and 28th, but north side. It seems like it is a regular house, but I don't see that setback being 40 foot or 20 feet. So I think under the unique circumstances of surrounding area, I am inclined to accept a reduction of the setback.
Okay, anybody else? Ms. Davis?
I'm still thinking. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm not ready to talk.
I would just say I'm in agreement. I mean, the unique pattern, 6 different zonings, also gives the ability for 2 units, and so I'm in support of Ms. Johnson's comments.
Okay.
So I definitely understand Ms. Johnson's perspective, Member Johnson's perspective, and I think it's well-reasoned. I think, and maybe the chairman or Mr. Cole can answer this for me, because I could just be missing it. What's the variance? I think that's what I went back to. I'm not saying there's not one. I just, like, in my mind, I was just trying to resolve that question, because I think their
What's the
arguments make
hardship?
sense. Yeah, what's the
What's
hardship? I'm sorry.
hardship?
Thank you. My brain's not working. Yes, that's my question. I think their arguments are good, and I think John Michael is an excellent lawyer, but I think I missed it.
Maybe was that a question
To anybody, yeah, like I don't.
My understanding was it's it's based on arterial boulevard, which has a setback of 40 feet. You can kick it down to 20 feet. But it's zoned for 2-family, and there's no way to meet the zoning based upon the setbacks. I don't know if that definitely checks the hardship box, but that was kind of my understanding of it.
Thank you.
I don't know, I think, remember Davis, you have the thinking that doesn't meet the hardship
I don't know,
requirement?
I was just asking, it's a question. I hadn't resolved it in my mind, I'm just thinking. So I was asking people that are smarter than me.
I don't know if I checked that box either.
No, you checked that box.
Maybe when it goes to building or something, but I think in order to meet the zoning that is on this lot, given the setbacks based on the arterial boulevard, is why they need the reduced setback. Could they, in theory, go to 20 feet and you'd have to, possibly you'd have 2 18 and change size houses, 18 feet wide. You could ask for maybe an additional reduction of space between the 2 properties down to 6 feet, because I think that's the minimum. I'm just thinking out loud for another way of getting around and still getting the.
Yeah, I think it's, we can definitely meet, our review standards, 174370B, unique characteristics. And, like Mr. Ransom said, if we reduce the setback try to enforce setback to 20, the house will be extremely narrow because the subject property itself is kind of not a large property itself. It does not allow to develop to units, which is allowed under the base zoning. But if we try to enforce it, it would be extremely narrow, and what they call the side setback between unit A and unit B will be further reduced. That will create further fire hazard. So seems like trying to see the general area, I think interpretation, try to enforce strict interpretation will harm this property. So I think considering unique characteristic and physical lot size, I think it will meet the variance. And clearly hardship is not self-imposed.
I wish there's a little bit more information on this survey because, you know, the other property that I asked about earlier, it's basically adjacent. This one in question on the 28th Avenue side has a much wider sidewalk, and there's a 2 to 3 foot buffer between curb and gutter, or 2 to 3 foot buffer between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk, and then probably a 5 foot sidewalk. So if you look at the other property, I don't know where the sidewalk is in reference to this 10-foot setback, and the sidewalk looks like it's right on top of the street for this property at 2801, and it's not uncommon for those sidewalks to actually be sometimes on the property itself, although it's not noted in this one. Would you have Clint Elliott's? It would be nice if we had the survey of the house as is, showing the location of the property line in relation to the sidewalk. Because if it is, you know, it's arterial, they're going to want at some point to have larger sidewalks with the proper buffers from the street. What I'm trying to avoid is giving a variance of 10 feet and then realizing that for Metro to come in and put a sidewalk down the road, they're going to have to push it one way or the other. I'm not sure if that's outside of our bookends, but you can kind of see the relation of the two here. And I don't know. I don't know what the setback is right now off the right side. And if Clint Elliott did do the survey, they probably would have an as-built showing the current house. I mean, I know how accurate Mr. Hargis is the new parcel viewer, plus or minus a few feet.
I would not use it to,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, as a survey.
Right. I mean, you could, that's kind of my hang up. I'm all for getting density and not having unusually small houses. And I don't think it's a self-inflicted hardship, but I just don't want to cause any problems in the future.
Well, I mean, if there's to me, there's no hardship related to the narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the lot. So the only possible, and there's no exceptional topographic conditions. 13.72073 does allow a variance where there's other extraordinary or exceptional situation. And I think what Mr. Michael has identified is there's this kind of a hodgepodge of zoning. And you've got this designation of Delaware as an arterial street, which bumps it from 20 to 10. But, I mean, so the question that I'm struggling with and have struggled with because we don't have any case law that helps us with this. I know we discussed this. You know, does exceptional situation, does that allow you to consider things besides the shape of the property or the surrounding properties? And, you know, we just don't have any guidance on that. I have always, my reading of the statute is that it should have something to do with the actual shape of the property and not a unique circumstance created by kind of zoning and other designations of streets and to be intellectually honest, I think we had this discussion a couple of meetings ago, and it came up about this exceptional circumstance, and I think that my thinking then was if exceptional circumstance or exceptional situation doesn't relate to the shape of the topography or something unique about the property itself, then to me, it's just wide open. I mean, where do we draw the line? And I would like to, I think density is good. Obviously, we need it. I think the council person over there believes we need it. But I feel like we're being asked to remedy something with a variance that's being created by, somebody designated that an arterial street for some reason. And somebody decided if it's an arterial street, you need a 20-foot setback, not a 10-foot setback. And so I'm struggling to find a way to get to a hardship. But I'm still all ears, and I would like to, I think this is, given what Mr. Michael has told us about the kind of surrounding properties, I don't have any sense that we're going to approve something if we approved it that would be out of character or would be, offensive to the zoning code, but that's what I'm hung up with is what is the hardship?
I mean, I don't disagree that I think the quote unquote exceptional maybe should apply obviously to the lot, but there is quite a bit of varying zoning very close to this particular property. I mean, it's almost somewhat surrounded by multiple different zones, so it makes it kind of a little bit of an island to some degree. Mr. Hargis, I have a question in this. You may not be able to answer it, but on the arterial boulevard, 40-foot setback can be reduced to 20. What's the reason for the larger setback? Is it for future road expansion, future sidewalk expansion? Just that's what they want because of that's what the rule is?
If I had to wager an educated guess, it's probably for future right-of-way acquisition.
Right. And that's my...
But, then on the other hand, we have a zoning code I'm sorry, I'm not sharing my screen with you. On the other hand, we have a zoning code directly north and west that lets you be at 0. So, this lot here, diagonal, it's not obviously non-conforming because it has a 20-foot required setback. But then just north is another 0. So, your question is, what is the purpose? The purpose was, so I guess rights of way, so the city doesn't have to acquire it by people's property, but if 28th is going to get widened.
Right, and that's my assumption too.
Yeah, I'm not, this building is practically 0 too, across the street. So.
Right.
I think one of y'all said it's a kind of an island. It's the remainder of this, I guess, of the older zoning pattern that existed prior to all the redevelopment that's happened.
So that could go to, in order to fit a matching sidewalk like across the street or up the street, you probably would have to go to 0 if a 10-foot variance.
I would say to you, sidewalks are probably, I would not get into those here. We're in the midst of a federal lawsuit, so the future of sidewalks is very much up in the air of who's doing them when. So.
Well, that just goes back to the reason for the width, future right-of-way for whatever, including sidewalks.
As a party who spent 7 hours in a deposition talking about sidewalks, I'd love for this board to avoid sidewalks.
Too soon. Bike path. I mean, the unusual nature of all the other zoning around it is pushing me towards that kind of quote-unquote exceptional note, but at the same time, the applicant has the ability to construct 2 units. With a 20-foot setback, they would just have skinnier homes. That could still work. I mean, I've built townhomes that are 15 feet wide. Granted, it's not ideal that those were also much longer. You have staircases and other stuff to fit in, and I'm sure the applicant has plans that would work, but
So I think, unique characteristic is because of this unique area. If you look at the surrounding area, SP, OR, RM20, RM40, OL, MUL. So other area except one slab of the 28th and Delaware, they're allowed to utilize 28th Street with 0 setback. But this property being RS6, so they are required to have general 40-foot setback and then allowed to reduce to 20-foot setback. So to me, it's really unique because other area is literally 0 setback. So do we ask applicant, well, if that case, you need to change the zoning, or as our body, do we have authority? I think we do have authority to gauge and measure what's the characteristic. To little interpretation of the code, just insisting on 20-foot setback will match up the intent of the larger development intent, or allowing 10-foot reduction will meet the general guideline and overall goal as a development pattern. So I would think our body has authority to see the larger area and determine that interpretation will meet larger general plan. So therefore, we can determine this is a unique characteristic pertaining to this parcel. So for that reason, I am comfortable interpreting that way with, review of the standards. And I think it meets our review standards at 1740-370B. So that's my leaning.
I think, those are all great points. The areas that are on 0 setback, they all are the front doors. They dump out onto a code compliant sidewalk. That's kind of meant on those arterial roads and creating that kind of look and feel. And that's why they're, from my understanding, able to get that setback, right? If we give a 10-foot setback on a side of a house and then, something is constructed that's not a road here to meet what's up the street, then you're not met with a front of a residence that's high density. You're met with a side of a residence that's lower density. And I think they're able to get the 0 setbacks because of the higher density and because of the other improvements that those developments make to the associated street curb gutters. So I'm on the fence on this one. This is a main thoroughfare and there's other things that come into play, and I'm just thinking of the genesis of why those things are approved and the way that the thought is behind having the front doors dump out at 0 versus the side here is what's making it. So that's why I'm kind of circling the drain on this one. So
Yeah, I'm on the fence too. I think that here's the exceptional situation, I don't think it's an exceptional situation to say we have a different pattern of zoning, but I think it could be an exceptional situation that your property is different from other properties if the things built on the other properties are actually different than they're there and they're built. And so
Saying
it
that-
seems to me then you could say, well, if you don't allow this variance, based on the way things are built, not the way they're zoned, then it just wouldn't look uniform, and therefore, we have an exceptional situation with respect to our property because of the way others are built and the way we would be required to build.
Exactly, it's somewhat apples, just an extreme, right? You're equating a two single-family unit development across the street to a quote-unquote multifamily higher density development, right? But you're saying the setback should be using that as a supportive mechanism, but it's an apple and orange versus another scenario. And just to make up an example, saying the applicant came here and said, hey, this is rated for 2 units, but we want to put 5 and with 0 setbacks, and look across the street, the exact same.
Right.
That's more of an apples to apples, you can meet up the variance kind of situation. So
Right.
that's what I'm struggling a little bit, and for my.
And that isn't based on, well, our zoning is different, and we need an exception because this arterial street requires more of a setback. It's us actually looking at what's actually built on the ground there, and does that make what can happen on this lot exceptional if it's built strictly according to code. But what I would like to do, because I want to see if we could, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I just wanted to say, and also just to interrupt, yes, but also my understanding of council's wants along these arterial boulevards, having higher density, being right up on the right up on the 0 lot line, right? And they're able to give 0 lot line if you have higher density with the front doors that dump out onto that, right? I think it's one of those things, over 10 and 20 years, that you hopefully would get more density along those arterial boulevards. So that's my just interpretation of some of the bills from the council.
The fact that the council person wants it, with all due respect to council people, to me, that doesn't go into whether there's a hardship or not usually. If they have some perspective about this piece of property, then that's to be considered. But I guess what I'd like to do is, because I heard Mr. Michael talk, I'd like to see if we can open the public hearing so I can understand better what is it that's built there. As I understand some from the parcel viewer, but I'd like to know what's built that is differing in setback. Does anybody have a issue with reopening it so we can, okay, Mr. Michael, can you step up? Because I think you've heard what we're struggling with, and this exceptional circumstance, I don't think it is because, well, you've got this particular type of zoning that's scattered around, but I think what you have said is the way this neighborhood is already built out, then it makes this property unique and exceptional, because if you don't give us a variance, we're going to kind of stick out like we're going to have a different, essentially, development pattern. So what is built on the ground surrounding it and around it that makes that argument or doesn't make that argument?
First of all, I think you've honed in on just where we're trying to go. The difference in zoning itself does not create the unique issue for this lot. Instead, it is the development that has taken place because of those zoning opportunities that are around us. So our neighbors to the immediate south is a health clinic. That's different, it's zoned different, it operates different. To the immediate north, the lot that Mr. Ransom was pointing out, it's a small multifamily, looks like row houses or townhouses. They have, with their base zoning, the 0 to 5 or 0 to 10 foot step back as their requirements, so they can touch the sidewalk.
Are those built in place?
Those are built in place, as I understand.
Those are the ones that we
that
saw,
was the street photo that Mr. Hargis showed you.
Those are the
earlier.
ones north of your property that are built right up with.
Correct, right across the street from Delaware. So when we look at the built environment, those are just 2 examples. There is some more 1 and 2 family northeast of us a little bit before getting into more of the multifamily that's built out to the street. So to the extent there's a concern of, oh dear, we need to strictly follow the guideline, that would be 20 feet in this instance, which then pulls us back differently from the somewhat newly established, recent years at least, pattern that is emerging on that particular stretch of 28th as you go southbound to Delaware and beyond. However, we don't talk and think as much of the aesthetic effect of a slightly deeper setback, the 20 rather than 10. Instead, we look to, heck with aesthetics. If the established guideline is to activate more on the sidewalk, then let's be a little bit closer and be part of that programming. As all of you will probably recall, we are required by law to have our two-family development face to the short side of the street. We're not allowed under 1 and 2 family, absent a special exemption from the zoning administrator based on 4 specifically identified criteria under the zoning code. Another project we just had recently had to go through that. But here we have to face north. So with a two-family, because we can't face out to 28, the Spine Street going north-south, all we're going to be able to have is a side. And if the side that we have there is at least closer to the sidewalk, that comes more into alignment with what you see in the SPs and the RM zone districts to our north and a little bit further down to our south as well. In terms of understanding the language of 13.7.207, I would offer this for the board's consideration. The exact quote from that statute is, quote, extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition, period. I've always argued and in previous lives interpreted that that is broader than just a discussion of the 4 corners of the lot, slope, lot shape, trees, waterways that are somehow interfering with otherwise developable areas. In fact, I think it has to go beyond that because the other sections of both state law and the Metro Code that contemplate this language and the bases for hardship analysis are all so specific to the lots that using this much broader category says, and while we have considered all of these lot-specific or topography-specific circumstances, here's another situation. Extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition. Ms. Davis's comment was striking to me with regard to the idea, and I want to make sure I'm kind of citing it correctly, the matter of having an exercise in line drawing. I think that the state legislature and subsequently the Metro Council in adopting language that almost perfectly mirrors the state law intends to have an open-ended Part 4 in terms of the 4 bases for a hardship establishment for a variance so that an arbiter body has the opportunity to assess whether or not that rises to the level of the hardship. In this case, the built environment around us, which stems from the mix of zoning districts around us, we believe is the hardship that keeps us from creating the best possible residential structures. I think your math was pretty close, Mr. Ransom. I was trying to scribble it to what would a 20-foot setback yield, 5 foot on this side, 25 out of the 70, 55, at least 6 feet between, less than 25-foot frontages or facades on both resulting houses, maybe as little as 19. Not high-quality housing. And this is a project where we want to develop and deliver, as my client always does, high-quality housing solutions. In this case, it's 2. Councilmember didn't want to go to an RM. Planning was not keen on going to an RM zoning district here, and I understand. But with the 2, we have to face to the north. Street becomes side, not front. We don't get the 0 to 10 build-to zone like those RM districts north and northeast of us. And ultimately, because the black letter of 13.7.207 does not say that the extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition, period, must pertain to some feature, topographical or otherwise, about the lot, I contend that it necessarily leaves the door open to consideration of the built environment, which I believe is the hardship that brings us here today, seeking the variance that seems to meet the conditions not only of the zoning code and this particular section of state law, but ultimately falls more into line with the obviously intended development pattern ideals or aspirations put forth in the general plan, put forth for policy in this area, and put forth by the recently updated zoning for this area. We hope that that'll help clarify a little bit and hopefully yield support.
Mr. Harger, can you put the parcel viewer back up so we can see I'm interested in seeing the properties to the north. Are those on 28th also?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I had a question, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, yeah.
So I think, Mr. Michael's familiar with this board and has heard us for a long time. I think when I made that comment is that typically, I wrote it down when you said it. You said the hardship is created by zoning code and the arterial street plan and that interplay. I think for us, we typically don't find, not that this isn't one, because I think you've presented a really good case. I think we typically don't find a variance or a hardship based off of something like that. And I think based off of just the surrounding context. And also too, I mean, we've heard people come up with, oh, the future development plan or because of all the zoning. And so I think that's why we're a little hesitant, like, because it doesn't fit neatly as much in a box. And then we don't want people coming up after you saying, you did this here, so do it here. Because I think I'm inclined now, I think what helped me in my mind was the fact, because I didn't realize this in your first talk, that these have to face Delaware because of what they are, and they don't get to face 28th like the other ones. And then, but for people who are experiencing this area, they're not going to know, oh, well, this is 28th and this is Delaware because it's a corner lot. Like, it doesn't fit within the context. So after your last soliloquy, said lovingly, I'm more inclined to support it. But I think we have to be very careful in how we like define this hardship, define this variance, that it's, you know, and that it's very narrowly tailored to this particular circumstance, and the fact that this is a corner lot, and that within the context of how we're trying to maintain this streetscape and everything else. So those were my thoughts, and I'll stop talking. I think the chairman had something else to say.
I just wanted to see, so the RM28s, they're located on 28th. Is that 28th right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Same intersection, in fact, 28th, and then the east-west is Delaware.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think I'm willing to find there is I'm sorry, do you have a question for me?
I don't know, I just can't help myself. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I know the fronts have to face, but is it, I still sometimes feel a little new when I ask this question, but is it part of this variance having Unit A's front door face 28th to continue the streetscape since it's a reduced variance? Or is that a little?
Well, that's not what they're asking for, so.
I understand that. That's what they're asking for, but part of asking for that reduced setback on that street, that's what I'm kind of where my head's at, but.
And I don't know if it's on us to figure it out, but to Memorance's point, like, there are other design solutions to the site. You know, I think some of this is to maximize the size of the two properties on the site. So I think there's some alternatives to how to site and size the two properties at this location. So I'm not necessarily seeing the hardship.
Well, I don't think, it's not what I call, it's not a hardship to me by reason of narrowness, shallowness, or shape. I think that because there are, you know, just north of it, there's, and it's not a hardship to me because you have these different zoning overlays, or because they're asking, we want to get out from under this regulation about that has to do with an arterial street. But I think that given what's built in the neighborhood and given what's built in the neighborhood, not how it's zoned, I think that there is an exceptional situation here, and I want to be really careful about that because I don't think those are. I think that could open up a can of worms if we ever just decided, well, we can just anytime we think there's an exceptional situation. So I want to be very clear that I think there's an exceptional situation here because of the way the development is in this neighborhood as it exists right now, and not because I think they wish they were zoned something else because other people are zoned something else, or, you know, because other similar streets are not designated arterial streets. I'm willing to find that there's an other extraordinary exceptional situation, and I do think that is one reason we probably were given this discretion so that in cases like this, somebody that doesn't have to go back for specific plan zoning or go through the planning commission. So anyway, that's where I am on it. I also understand the struggle Mr. Cole's having with it, and I think it's a very, very, it's very unique, and it takes a lot of thought. And I really at first was was struggling to find how we could find a variance, but this other extraordinary exceptional situation or condition, and I think particularly the language exceptional situation, that's, to me, a situation is kind of different than the shape of your land. That to me kind of implies that it could be something other than something directly related to the property. But I do think this is directly related to the property in the sense that that neighborhood is already built up in a certain way. So
I can't seem to get off the fence, but in regards to Mr. Cole, I agree that there are other there's multiple ways to skin a cat, and I think if you're going to be pushing this close up to an arterial boulevard, I think you need to present a facade that meets what the attempt of the requirements for that are, set in a specific way. I mean, I'm also all for trying to approve as much as possible when it comes to more units. We all know we need more, but I mean, it's a footprint of 1,200 square feet. So
Just a quick question, Mr. Ransom,
Yes,
probably Mr. Cole too. I mean, other alternative design, because this is based zoning RS6, and then, have to, front door have to face a shorter side, which is Delaware. So the house cannot face 28th Street. So have to put as is the plan was submitted. That's the orientation of the house. So I am a bit struggling what kind of other design or alternative will you be proposing? Because otherwise we will be denying their property rights to be able to build a two housing unit.
We're not proposing it. That's what
I don't
we
want
have
to
figure out.
Yeah, I don't want to, I got to be careful about dipping my toe in the architectural design. I'm not necessarily proposing anything. I'm just commenting on, from my understanding of arterial boulevards, and the reason the ones up the street have zero setback is because of the streetscape and density that city council and whomever else wants along these arterial boulevards for a variety of reasons. So if that also says that it has 20-foot setback as well. So if we're just pushing a side elevation of a single-family house up close on an arterial boulevard, I think maybe you need to pull some parts and pieces of, some of these other things that, and I threw out the idea, maybe the front could be on that, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right call. I'm just struggling with which way to go on it.
I think what we are facing right now is if we don't grant this variance, they can build the house 20 feet away from the 28th Avenue right now.
Correct.
They can do it, but they won't be able to build two houses in that orientation because of the underlying requirement. The front door still have to face Delaware. So what they can do is just to build one house in that lot.
No, my understanding is with 20-foot setback, they'd still be able to build two homes. Am I missing anything that they would
No, they're
not?
still allowed to build two homes. You didn't miss anything.
Yeah, they could, but it would be extremely narrow.
They'll be much, they'll
Yeah.
have a footprint of, 18 and change wide as opposed to, maybe 18, 19 as opposed to 22 to 23. So they'll be less in width, right? So,
I think it'd be more like 12, wouldn't it? Because if you go into 10 feet, it's going to be more like a 12-foot.
no, it'd be just 5 feet out of each residence.
Okay.
But then the variance changes, you got, they got 7.5 feet between them. There's get into nuances, but I know Mr. Cole, I'm a builder, not an architect, but I do a lot of architecture and I've done a lot of townhouses. It's not like you're going from 18 to 12. So it's still buildable. And I'm just careful on what like you said, you don't want to open a can of worms. But I do agree that it's surrounded by, I think this board is trying to figure out a way to approve it because it is surrounded by a lot of different zoning. But what we're also being careful of is trying not to pick out one piece of single family and stick it in a setback of a commercial zoning or vice versa, so.
Well, are we ready for a motion, or we want to discuss more? Seems like everybody's somewhere pretty close, except Mr. Ransom, who's leaning back in his chair side.
I don't know, Mr. Ransom pulled me back off, so I don't think.
So you need more time,
Which
too.
side did I pull you on?
Well, okay, I'll make a motion, we can discuss more if we need to. I'll make a motion that we approve it with the hardship being the unique and exceptional situation of the development pattern and the density, particularly the units that are built just north of this that have, aren't subject to the setback and are already in place. So that's my motion.
I second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, further discussion. All right, we ready to vote then, or do y'all need to go?
I have one question.
Okay.
Sorry. For a variance, it's binary, right? There's no conditions on it, right? From my understanding.
No, we can put conditions on one,
Yeah, you can place conditions on a variance.
yeah.
Listen, I'll tell you what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with, it's going to end up with this large, flat, two-story, flat window syndromed facade right up against an arterial boulevard, and it's totally against the streetscape of the ones up the street and the want of a more interesting streetscape on 28th. That's my struggle. But we're not an architectural board. We're a zoning board, but that's where I'm struggling with it. I know we're in the middle of a motion.
Sorry, we're in the discussion part of it, so.
What condition would solve that for you?
I don't know what condition I'm necessarily allowed to make, right? A friends and family entrance on the side that mimics a front door to make that facade more interesting, so it elevates the streetscape. I don't know if we're even allowed to do anything like that. You can't make anything overly cumbersome on applicants that would cost them. But I'm trying to make it work. So maybe I'm caring about something that I shouldn't care about as well. But that's just.
It's okay, McNulty.
I mean, I don't think it's an issue to care about the character of the architecture, right? You want it to match the neighborhood. I just think we tread a fine line of making propositions, and we're not the architects of
I understand.
of the project, so, I don't want us to start designing from, sitting up here.
Right. I know.
As a procedural point, Mr. Pepper, may we offer on behalf of the client that should such conditions be proposed regarding the friends and family entrance or facade-style door on the 28th Avenue side, that is something that we could probably work around, and if that was the difference between approval and disapproval, we would find a way to warm to that condition.
Yeah, you can offer that, so, I mean, if you want to, I've made a motion, if you want to, I would be open to an amendment if you want to ask me to amend it. It's up to you,
I mean, that would get me off the fence, and you can make it pretty broad and generic, but, I mean, from my understanding, and you can synthesize this into a more simplistic form, but my understanding on these arterial boulevards and giving some of the zero setbacks is to create more of a denser, front facade on that, right? So if we're going to pull that setback down, reducing potential future right-of-way, I feel like something, not a street's going to end up in that area. I'm just asking for something to kind of go with what zoning wants along those arterial boulevards.
So would you want to, are you asking for an amendment that the variance be conditioned on there being a side entrance with a portico or But I need something specific to amend it.
And legal, is this am I entering a no man's land here from a?
Well, so the language regarding conditions, this is 174270. Says in granting a variance, blah, 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 the board may impose conditions, restrictions, or time limits considered necessary to protect surrounding properties and better carry out the general intent of this title.
Okay.
Also, will we need to, with those conditions, dictate which of the two properties the conditions apply to?
Yeah, he
Because
gets
like both don't
Unit
need to
A,
have the
right,
side door
exactly,
situation,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a unit A, and I think you'd be amending as to unit A, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct,
but
yeah,
like, we don't
amending
wanna-
the unit
We don't
A.
want to say this general language and then it applies to both
Right,
units.
yeah, no, that was a good point.
Yeah, so
So if you're gonna amend what Mr. Cole's saying is, you
Yeah,
need to
this
make
is
it
the
specific
danger
as to
of
which
making
unit.
these propositions.
yeah, so I guess that with a condition to, it's specific to Unit A on the facade facing 28th Avenue, to have some type of what would be called a friends and family entrance, a side entrance with a portico that meets building and zoning restrictions to reflect the overall, I think Ann said it, the overall desire of planning along the arterial boulevard for a structure that's closer to the street.
Mr. Chairman, before taking a vote on that, we'd like to defer our case to the next available meeting date. We'd like to provide more information to the board that has been requested through its deliberation today, specifically with regard to hopefully an updated survey that shows a little more information, outlines arguments more specifically as to conditions that might meet the goals that Mr. Ransom is conceptualizing, and hopefully put some options in front of the board that would demonstrate what seems to be the intended effect. With that, we would ask to defer to the next meeting.
Okay, and let me just, procedurally, there's a motion that's been seconded, so I think procedurally, I would have to withdraw that motion. We don't have to vote on it, do we?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you can withdraw the motion.
Okay, so I will withdraw the motion and make a motion to defer, but I would say that we've spent a lot of time on this today, so if we'd be willing, the board will have to vote, because if everybody doesn't agree, we don't have a majority to vote defer, we're going to vote on it today. But if it is deferred, I would encourage the applicant to recognize we spent a lot of time on it today. So I'll make a motion to defer for one meeting. I'll make a motion to defer for one. All right, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. All right, we'll see you all next meeting. Yep. Next case.
Okay, our next case is the final case of public hearings today, case 2025-35. Mr. Blake Lees, the appellant, Georgia Gleaves, the owner of the property at 4518 Granny White Pike, requesting a variance in the street setback requirements in R20. The applicant seeking to construct a single-family residence. This will be a second residence on the lot. And I do know there's opposition present, so let me put 10 on.
Is there opposition present?
Yes, sir, there is.
All right.
And then for all the folks that are remaining, you've seen how the others work, so same process here. I see the applicant's over on the side there, and opposition's here near me. So, all right, the subject property is located at the intersection of Granny White Pike and Biltmore Drive. And then this is the site plan of the existing facilities here. I don't have a site plan of the proposed footprint, and I intentionally did that because the builder, this will be a case of first impression in front of this board for this particular requirement. it made sense to me that the applicant, without kind of knowing the box he's got to work with, he, doesn't want to give you a plan until he kind of knows the setback of what's going on. I'm gonna just skip through this slide. I'll come right back to it, and explain the variance. But this is the subject property. You see the rock wall. This is at the corner of Biltmore and Granny White Pike. And then a view looking east on Biltmore. This is where the variance will be required along Biltmore Street. And the reason for that variance is a recent change in the zoning code that was passed by the council. It's been probably 6 or 8 months now, but detached two-family dwellings require a contextual street setback to be met for both streets. That is a change from the prior code, because the prior code, like we looked at in the previous case, originally the setbacks would be meeting the contextual on the shorter lot line street, which would be Granny White, and then because this lot was created prior to August 1st of, I keep saying August 1st, January 1st of 98, the setback along this side street, this is a local street, so this setback would have been 10 feet. But the council required that detached duplexes or detached two-family dwellings, the applicant's proposing, and I'll let him cover it more specifically, I believe it's to the rear of the house, but to show you a little bit.
Before you move on, so the red line is both the side setback on Biltmore and the front setback?
No, it is just a setback off of Biltmore. The setback off of Granny White is this 80.3 right here.
Okay.
And they are meeting that one.
But that's specific to a
Detached two-family dwelling. So detached two-family dwellings in R20 and greater, so R30, 40, and AR2A on corner lots have to meet the contextual setback of the homes on both streets.
And there is no site plan for what they want to build. That's what I was struggling
No,
with.
sir, there isn't, and I took that in this case because it's hard to. I can tell you what he's asking for, and that part is easy. And his proposal is to build the new structure with a setback that matches the existing home here. That is his request, to have a setback equal to 22.4, which would be the side of the existing home. The home itself, where I took this photograph, I should have went just a little bit more east. You'd actually see the house. But I'm going to use parcel viewer to supplement here in just a minute. But I'm standing here at this intersection. It's, as you can see, pretty heavily vegetated. But the council, kind of back to that, the council requires you to meet the contextual setback for both streets. So the average setback is based on these homes, these 4 that were recent constructions. This was an existing home. Based on the average of those, came out to be 60.6 feet, which is where that red line is. And I show it to you bisecting the existing home. So his setbacks for compliance would be back in this general vicinity. There's a 20-foot rear setback off of.
And then the front has to face Granny White, correct?
The front can face either Granny White or Biltmore. We do let that second unit face either, but it does have to face a public street. But for purposes of setback, we treat the entirety of the lot. It's not like 2 separate lots. So this back unit utilizes the same setbacks that for the entirety of site. So we've got street setback here, which is the average of this homes. This street setback is the average of these homes. For the purposes of that number, I think we threw this house out of the equation because it's such a outlier. And then for these homes, I couldn't toss any of these homes. This is the predominant pattern. So that's the red line. And then so that sets up the variance request here. But this is, like I said, this is the first type of case that you've heard of this one. Don't know how many more we'll see, but one of the when this case was originally proposed, it required all two-family structures on corners to meet this requirement. Council Lady Johnson was the sponsor, and I kind of showed her sort of the discussions were the situation that occurred in her district that allowed a house facing the side street to be 15 feet, just based off how the numbers ran. So she amended her bill in third reading to take out all structures and make it just detached two-family. The reason being because a lot of these lots, the lots to the other street were so much deeper in her district that it would make this lot completely unbuildable. The setback would be over on this neighbor's property based on these lots being so deep. So we may see more of those. So we'll just see, just give you a little bit behind the curtain. For us, as these start developing out, we see patterns of, man, every one of these have gone to the board. Here's sort of the history. We need to change the law. I mean, if we're getting just constant variances on every corner lot, then there's something wrong with the law. But this is kind of the first one we've seen. We've been doing this now for about 6 or 8 months. So, but that's where we have it. All right, with that, I will stop talking. Mr. Lee, if you'll come forward, please, sir, and identify yourselves and name and address and make your presentation to the board as far as what your hardships are. And then once Mr. Lee's done, you'll want to save a portion of your 10 minutes for rebuttal to allow this nice lady to speak in opposition. And then I'll turn it over to you.
My name is Blake Lee. My address is 829 Gale Lane. Thank you, Chair and board members, for having me today. The request is to apply for a setback variance off of Biltmore, and Joey covered majority of my what I would like to think is a hardship, because I think the R20, Joey, is it R20 and above, they are not allowed to have that 50% reduction. Is that correct? Okay. So in the northwest corner, onto my hardships now, in the northwest corner, there's a stream. And while this doesn't completely eliminate the building area, it does add additional layer of hardship. The lot is long and irregularly shaped compared to, I think it's the Biltmore lots on that side as well. And since it's on a corner, I do believe it's still irregularly shaped. Because now I'm now having to govern the Biltmore setbacks and Granny White setbacks. And I am requesting a setback proposed of 22.4 feet as shown on the screen. Another note, we are keeping the existing house. So I think I would like to rely on you guys or Joey for this, but if I don't get this variance, then I'm likely not able to have an addition off the property, because where that red line is, there's a cellar door that is underneath that. So there really isn't any other way to do an addition on this property. So I'm kind of just stuck with the irregular shape of the lot and the contextual setback off both Biltmore. And while Granny White isn't an issue, it still impedes the building envelope. So I'm just trying to let you guys know that I'm keeping the existing house, and I want to keep this in line with the development pattern in the area, which are predominantly front to back HPR.
So you're building on the footprint?
On the front, yeah. Do you want me to pass this around to you, Chairman? Is that okay?
Is that a site plan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to see a copy.
Okay.
That'd be great. Do you have extras or?
I have one. My
Okay,
office
that's fine.
flooded,
Just pass it around. We'll take a look. So you're not really building on the.
I'm not on the back, no, sir.
On the existing structure's footprint, but you're building within the side setback of the existing structure. Correct? I mean, you're not building the new structure right over the top of where you had the current structure exists.
No,
But
so
you're
it's
building it consistent with the side setback that exists.
correct. Joey, if you can pull that
All right, there you go.
parcel up for them. Could you go to parcel viewer, Joey? Sorry.
Is actually in our new one.
So could you zoom out if you could? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
being demanding. Okay, so see the HPR that's filed in the north corner to the left? Go north, one more parcel to the left right there, Joey. So I would be matching that, Mr. Chairman. That's what I would be putting, and that's what I'm passing around to you guys. And I wouldn't be changing the zoning here or asking for an increase in density, but I suspect that if this house will be kept. So in the future, I don't want to have to come back to you guys and ask for another variance to have an addition off the existing house.
So in my presentation, I had you in the wrong spot. You'll be here.
Correct, yes,
You'll
sir.
comply with the Granny White setback.
Yes, sir.
But it's here, okay?
Mhm. And there is a, I don't know who has that sheet. Yes, there is a picture on the third page that shows an elevation of what would be built there. And I thank you guys for listening to this and respect your decision. That's all I have.
Is that something you have electronically available to you?
Yes.
Can you forward it to
Yeah.
our inbox, and I'll pull it up on the screen? So
The BZA inbox or your
Yes,
email?
BZA.
Does the opposition have, I want to make sure she has time as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, sure. We'll make certain that she's got time to look at
Okay.
that. That hard copy I'm actually going to provide for her to look at, and I'll pull the one you're sending me electronically. I'll leave up on the screen for the board members.
Joey, it's
Yes.
the third document on that email.
Okay. Hasn't come through just yet, but I'm sure it'll be here.
Are we still trying to get up on the screen, or? Yes, sir. Okay.
It hasn't come through Outlook yet,
That's
but
fine.
I think we
If
could
you
pause
want
here
to-
and swap out and.
I've seen it, and I think the opposition is looking at it now, so I get it. I mean, you're building, it's not on the same spot, the existing structure, but it's the same side setback you're asking for, so. Anything else you want to cover?
I have two support letters for neighbors. If you guys want me to pass that around as well, I can.
I did not see any support letters in our package, so you might, if you'll hand those up.
Okay.
We can make those part of the record.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay. You'll have some time in rebuttal, 4 minutes and 32 seconds, so you'll get a chance to speak again if you would like it. Ma'am, I think you're here in opposition.
Christina Lines, 1108 Lipscomb Drive. I'm on the street right behind Biltmore. I understand when I came, Mr. Hargis was good to explain the corner variance stuff, the setbacks and all that. And I understand that Mr. Lee needs that setback in order for the new dwelling to line up, or for him to be able to put really any new dwelling on that property. So I understand that. My concern is, in listening to the previous case, I'd like to consider attaching conditions to the variance. And one condition would be, when he just spoke, that the new house would be similar in size to the existing house. That existing house, I want to think, is like 2,400 square feet. When I look at his rendering, that's more than 2,400 square feet. So I'd like a condition attached that if by chance that house gets torn down, that then we have another discussion about what that property is going to look like. Because I feel he needs the setback because of his intention to leave the existing house and then build an additional structure. If all of a sudden in the process with the owner, he changes that and decides, oh, this house really can't be renovated like we thought, the addition's not going to work for this house. And also, having lived in that neighborhood, my family, close to 70 years, there's also maybe some springs, some other stuff under that property that once he gets into this may change what he winds up wanting to do or needing to do. So I would like a condition that if that house is unable to remain on that property, that we have another variance hearing to look at that. My other condition would be there's a stone wall on that property that has been there forever, and that stone wall remain.
Okay, anything else?
Nope. I mean, I completely understand the corner stuff. My big concern is if all of a sudden this whole plan changed, then what does that mean? Okay?
Okay. Any, before you sit down, are there any questions for?
Anybody?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
You have, Mr. Lee, you have some time left, so if you could come on up and. My understanding is you do intend to build this new structure, right, and get rid of the old structure, correct? Or did I misunderstand that?
No, sir. I want to retain the current structure that's there.
Retain the current structure, but build the other one.
Mm-hmm, build the other one in the front where there's a black square around it, and I would build there.
Okay. What about the stone wall? Are you leaving?
Chris, I can keep the stone wall. I have no intention of tearing that down.
Okay.
Actually, I know their Girl Scouts across the street. I know the COO, and I asked her if I could help shape both of those and tidy those up to make those look nice. Because there's another one that's just like, right there. So I'll do that, Chris. I will not, and board members, I will not tear down that stone wall.
Any more questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and discuss. Yep, that'd be fine. Thank you. Thank you both. Thoughts?
How are you going to build anything with these new setback restrictions?
Yeah, no, I think that there's a hardship the way and I mean, he's volunteered to leave the stone wall up, so I don't have a issue with making that a condition, but to put a condition that, I mean, there are code requirements around how much square footage he can build and how many units he can build, and I'm just not, I wouldn't be comfortable saying, even though I find what is clearly to me a significant hardship, that I'm not going to really give you relief from the hardship unless you agree that you will build something that that you have to essentially be restricted by things that aren't in the code. I understand what the opposition is getting at, but I mean, to me, the question is there a hardship? If there is, then he would get relief from the hardship, but I don't feel like I would impose things on him that are inconsistent with the current zoning code in terms of square footage. But that's kind of my initial thinking about it.
I agree, not going down the kind of that rabbit hole of imposing, we've done that once or twice, but that was different circumstances. This is a question for Mr. Hargis. On the proposed new dwelling footprint, essentially it's reflected as a side load garage, but it's a front load garage, considering built more as a frontage, and that's kind of a parking pad. You're not building multiple different areas, so this is stemming from a different zoning requirement, but there's nothing in Davidson County that restricts parking or anything in front of that side, or essentially front setback. Is there?
There is not. This, so for purposes of setback, the narrower lot line is to be considered the front. So this will be a side street. There's a code requirement for, if that's a garage, a 20-foot minimum setback from the garage to the right of way. But as far as driveway or pad, there's not in this zone district, no.
I didn't think so. I ran into that somewhere else, and just wanted to double check.
Well, the other thing that, as I sit there and look at it, is if he wasn't granted the variance, he could still build 2 units, and I think that if he complied with that side setback, it would be a more awkward looking appearance.
Completely agree. And maybe this is for conversation afterwards, but Mr. Hargis, what was the reasoning for the adjustment of the?
We had a home that was issued in the council member's district. So to give you the background of that, the side street setback, like we talked about the last case, if this lot was created prior to January 1st of 98, you get to reduce this line down, this longer side street setback. Mm-hmm. So the required setback in that particular neighborhood was just 30 feet off the front, which allowed this house to be 15. And they had an existing, I think they built 2 homes, one facing the narrower line, the other facing the short line. Because they didn't have garage doors, they were allowed to set that house at 15 feet from the road. And the homes, as you went west, kind of like in this scenario, these homes were much deeper. They were like 100 feet back. So it was quite a shock.
Right.
As your 100 foot, 80, 15.
Right.
So the overall principle made sense to, we need to, in these type of detached duplexes, make them conform more to the other homes down both streets. The downside of that, especially in the council member's neighborhood, her original plan, it would have made virtually every corner lot in her district unbuildable because the setback was greater than the width of the lot itself. So the compromise was if you do an attached duplex, then you get the reduction of setback. But if you do detached, then you have to meet the full setbacks for both streets.
And there was no yin and yang. There was no detached if your house,
Nope. Your
lot is 425 feet or 435 feet long.
No.
Seems like they could use a little polishing there. The hardship is the setback, the new setback. The lot is 425 feet long, so it's not like it would stand out. To anybody that drives by, it wouldn't feel unusual, I think. There's an existing residence that's there, and I think the setback is similar to that. He's indicated he's going to keep the stone wall, which was the request of the one neighbor, so certainly in support of it as it is.
Is that a motion or
Sure, I'll make, does anybody else have anything to say? I'll make a motion to request the variance for the street setback with the condition that the applicant keeps the stone wall.
Oh, I'll second it. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, that passes 5-0. I think we have one more item on our agenda, right? It's not a case, but it's.
We do, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and Ann, I'll say a few words, turn over to Ann. Ann, I forwarded to you in this meeting, Ann provided a very good recent case in the Eastern District of Tennessee dealing with variances. As we run across those, we'll provide y'all recent case law. I've just forwarded that to you guys, so take a read. I think I've glanced over it. I'm going to look at it a little closer tomorrow to sort of digest it. But usually the courts do a very good job of explaining the rationale behind variances and why this particular one's not good or is good or whatever, how it holds out. But
what was the name of that case? I see 3 in the variance case law.
yes, sir. It's I haven't put it in that folder yet.
Okay. All
I
right.
just emailed it to you.
All right.
It is a case out of Louisville, Tennessee.
Is
Yeah,
Reed versus Town of Louisville.
What's it called?
Reed versus Town of Louisville. It's just a recent decision, in certain ways it's not unusual. I mean, it's like not published, but I think it has a good kind of like, it just shows you how a Court of Appeals is going to be looking at the variance cases and case law and, what they're looking at in terms of like how these issues are related to the land, these hardships are related to the land, and it just has, good language, and I thought it was a good refresher. And happy to discuss it at our next meeting if you want to, or answer any questions if you want to email me or call me. Sometimes I think it's good just to kind of look at the recent cases and just see what the courts are doing.
I looked over the rule, the red line of the rules. I have they're written the way that's satisfactory to me. And we already voted on them, so I think it's just, I guess you just sent around to see if we caught anything that wasn't consistent with what we voted on.
Yeah, I just incorporated here all of the comments that you gave. Did you vote on it last time? I'm not sure if you had
we did. We voted on.
I wasn't sure if it was just comments given last time, or if there was like a vote on a final version.
I don't know that there was a vote on the final draft. There were votes on specific parts we
Right.
talked about, like the councilman part, I remember.
Exactly.
Because we had I think we pretty much agreed on most everything except there was some discussion about the speaking times of council people, and we did vote on that, as I recall.
Yes, I agree. I think
Do
you
we
have
need to vote on the final draft?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so I had circulated this a couple of weeks ago. I didn't get any comments from everyone, so I'm kind of assuming you're all good with this. There were mostly the red lines were everything you discussed in the meeting. And then there were, some of you gave me individual red lines, and some of it was like formatting issues, which I put in. And then there were a couple, I think Peyton had like taken out some of the, if you look on page, like, how many page numbers? Like if you look on the third, or even the second page, letter E, so he'd take out like submittals. He thought maybe not having the little subheaders. And that's just kind of a stylistic issue. It's not, it's not substantive. It just depends, like if you want to have, some of those subsections have little headers on them to kind of indicate what they're about. Some of them don't. That's just, again, it's a stylistic issue for you. So Peyton had said take them out, so I put that red line in. I didn't get any feedback on it, so.
I was fine with it. Does anybody have any?
No,
I guess we need to put it up for a vote. Does anybody have anything they want to address about it that they thought was?
No, and the kind of the sticky council member language, I feel like is good. If anything, it gives them at least tips the hat, or are they for or against, or just.
Well, too, you can also see how it goes for a year, and if you don't like it, we can revisit it and change it back or change it a different way. You guys are always.
Maybe we can trade. They can get it back if they give us the fence, a fence building permit.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the revised set of rules that were in our package and sent around.
A second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, there we go.
Great,
Okay.
thank you for all your work on that. And if you always want to, that question of time and how long people can speak for, you can always, of course, like give people additional time as long as it's equal for both parties. So,
Right.
All right, we're adjourned.
Great.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.